The peace I fought so hard to maintain became my prison. Now the only way out is through the truth that I've kept hidden for far too long. I stayed quiet, pretending to love you because I didn't want to cause a stir. But now I see that the stir was inevitable, and the truth will always rise to the surface. By pretending to love you, I thought I was protecting both of us, but in reality, I was suffocating under the weight of a love that was never truly mine. I chose silence over truth, pretending to love you just to avoid the explosion of emotions that lay beneath. But silence has a price, and I'm paying it now. The more I pretended to love you, the more I lost myself in the process. The peace I sought was never real, and now I have to rebuild what was broken. I wore the mask of affection for so long that I forgot what it felt like to be truly loved, truly understood. Now, all I have left is the emptiness of pretending. Pretending to love you was never about you. It was about my fear of conflict, my fear of facing the truth that I wasn't really in love with you. The peace I thought I was preserving was a lie I told myself. Now, I see that the only true peace comes from being honest, no matter how hard it may be. I thought pretending would help us both, but now I know that the only thing it did was create a distance that I can never undo. I hid behind the illusion of love to avoid the uncomfortable truth, but now the discomfort of pretending is far worse than anything I could have faced. The peace I sought by pretending to love you was fragile, a temporary balm to cover up the wounds. Now the scars remain, and the truth has nowhere to hide. In the name of peace, I lost my voice, my truth, my feelings, and now I find myself questioning everything, wondering what would have happened if I had been real with you. I built a castle of lies, pretending to love you, thinking it would protect us. But now, all that remains is the rubble of a relationship that was never what it seemed. The peace I clung to was an illusion. I was pretending, not living, and now the weight of that false peace is unbearable. I pretended to love you for so long, but now I see that real love doesn't hide behind silence or lies. It stands firm in the truth, no matter how hard it is. I thought I was protecting you by pretending to love you, but in the end, I only hurt us both by denying the truth we both needed to face. The mask of love I wore to keep the peace has now become my greatest regret. It's easier to pretend than to be real, but the cost is too high. I thought pretending would keep us together, but now I realize it only tore us apart, leaving us both to live in a world of half-truths and unspoken feelings. For so long, I buried my true feelings under the pretense of love, thinking I was protecting us from pain, but now I see that the pain was inevitable. The peace I sought through pretending is a memory now, and all I have left is the truth I should have spoken all along. I wore the disguise of love to avoid confrontation, but now I realize that confrontation would have been the only way to truly heal. Pretending to love you was an act of fear, not love. Fear of losing you, fear of the unknown. But now I see that honesty would have been the path to real peace. The more I pretended to love you, the more I lost my sense of self. And now I'm left with the haunting realization that peace isn't worth losing myself. I kept pretending to love you, but the truth is that love doesn't thrive in silence. It grows in honesty, even when it's hard. I thought pretending to love you was an act of kindness, but now I see it was an act of self-sabotage. The peace I thought I was keeping was only a lie. By pretending, I avoided the inevitable. But now the truth is here, and it's far more painful than the lie ever was. I kept pretending to love you to keep the peace, but now I understand that peace can never come from deception. It only comes from truth. I thought pretending was the easiest way to avoid the conflict, but now I see that the real conflict was the one I carried within myself all along. I stayed silent, pretending to love you just to avoid the chaos. But deep down, I was screaming for the truth to be heard, for my own soul to be set free. For too long, I wore a mask of affection, hiding the storm that raged inside me, just to keep things calm. But now the weight of pretending is too heavy to carry. In my heart, I knew I was pretending, but I convinced myself that it was easier to keep the peace than to shatter the illusion we both lived in. I once believed that pretending to love you would keep us safe, but now I see it only built walls between us, walls I can no longer stand behind. The peace I thought I was preserving came at the cost of my true feelings, and now I find myself lost in the aftermath, wondering if honesty would have been a better choice. I faked love to keep the peace, but now the silence is deafening. It's like I'm screaming for release, but no one hears me. I thought pretending to love you was the right thing to do, but now I see it only hurt us both. It's hard to keep pretending when the truth is right there, burning in my chest. I sacrificed my own emotions, my own truth, all to avoid confrontation. But in doing so, I lost myself and the love that could have been real. Pretending to love you was the easy path, but it led me to a place where peace was just a facade, and all that remained was emptiness. I stayed in a place where love was only a performance, a show I put on for your sake. Now, all I feel is the weight of regret and a longing for what could have been. The peace I worked so hard to maintain was never real. It was built on the lies I told myself and the love I pretended to feel. Now, I'm left with the truth that cuts deeper than anything else. By pretending, I convinced myself that I was doing the right thing, but now all that's left is an aching heart that yearns for honesty and release. I thought pretending to love you would keep us safe, but it only led to an ocean of unspoken words and hidden emotions that now drown me. I put on a mask of love to keep the peace, but with each passing day, it became harder to breathe beneath the weight of it all. Sometimes the greatest sacrifice is pretending to be someone you're not, just to keep the peace in a relationship that no longer feels like home. I kept pretending because I feared the storm that would follow if I let my true feelings surface. But now, the quiet is louder than the storm ever would have been. The love I pretended to give was never real, but the pain I feel now is. It's a heavy reminder that pretending is never the answer to peace. In the name of peace, I lost my voice. I kept pretending to love you when what I really needed was to speak my truth. I stayed in the shadows pretending to love you when I should have been standing in the light of honesty, letting go of the peace that held me hostage. Pretending to love you was the lie I told myself to avoid the conflict. But now I see that peace was never meant to come from deception. The silence I tried to create to keep the peace has now turned into a deafening roar of regret and longing for the truth. I buried my true feelings beneath a mask of affection, hoping it would shield us from pain. But now all I feel is the weight of all that was never said. It was easier to pretend to love you than to face the storm that was brewing inside me. But now I can no longer ignore the truth that wants to break free. I thought pretending would spare us both, but in the end, it only left us both empty, yearning for a connection that was never real. Love is not meant to be a performance. I learned that the hard way when I pretended just to keep the peace. Now, I'm left with nothing but the scars of that choice. I thought I was being noble by pretending to love you, but all I did was deny myself the freedom to feel, to be honest, to be true to what my heart needed. Pretending to love you was a temporary solution to avoid pain, but the truth is that the peace I thought I was saving was only a lie in disguise. I spent so much time pretending for the sake of peace that I forgot what it felt like to be honest, to be vulnerable, to truly love without fear. I thought pretending to love you would protect us, but now I realize it only distanced me from the person I was supposed to be, honest, real, and true. In trying to keep the peace, I lost the most important thing, my authenticity. Now I have to find my way back to the truth that I buried for so long. I thought keeping the peace was worth it, but the truth is, pretending to love you only led to a quiet emptiness that I can no longer ignore. Pretending to love you was a shield, but now I see it was also a cage. I kept myself locked in a lie, thinking it would keep things calm, but now I'm ready to break free.